right. Well, good morning. December 13th. So come into your less preferred cross-legged position and just start to make some adjustments so that you feel you can help your spine to sit up tall and you can find good alignment. You feel as even as you can from the waist down. And then adjust your shoulders to align above the hips, the skull above the spine, chin level with the floor. Closing your eyes and just gently looking away from your brain. The mind gets very busy first thing in the morning when we wake up. So just beginning your practice with a little bit of a suggestion for the mind to become a little quieter for the next hour. Don't worry, all the busyness will still be there. Just coming into attention to your breath. Try to become more attentive to your sensate experience. Notice where you're holding tension in your body. Maybe there's a hardness in the face, constriction in the abdomen. Maybe there's some gripping in your hips and thighs and groins. Maybe the shoulders are still hovering around the ears. Maybe your jaw is fixed or rigid. And just notice how sometimes when you find these areas in your body where you tend to hold tension, sometimes they just melt like butter. Not always, but sometimes. And maybe here choosing some sort of intention for your practice today, which can give it some sort of context. Joining your hands in front of your heart. On an exhale, bowing toward your heart. And releasing your hands down as you lift your head. Gently open your eyes. And welcome. We're going to come into a back bending practice today. Opening the front of the spine. The result should be energizing, kind of mood lifting, and hopefully you feel pretty good for the rest of the day. We're going to come into a modified heart chakra pose first thing. And the modification is that we're just going to fold up the arms and use the arms as a headrest. So you want to keep your knees in line with your hips. And you want to have your feet as wide as your knees. It's like a table pose in the back half. But then you're going to let your chest come down toward the floor, and your head will come onto your forearms. And so what you don't want to have happen is as you take the chest down, we don't want the hips to move back or forward. This isn't child's pose where your hips are back, and it's not something else where your hips are in front of the knees either. So just take a moment to check out that you have the hips over the knees, and then your head is resting. And we're just kind of orienting ourselves so that gravity can do the work. So every time you exhale, think about the front of the spine, starting to extend, elongate. The back spine gets a nice little contraction, which normally it gets kind of more extension than contraction. So just kind of notice the spine in your mind's eye, see if you can visualize that. And every time you exhale, just take it a little deeper. Sink those shoulder blades in toward the chest. Every time you inhale, imagine you're getting a little tug. The top of the head gently pulling away from the sacrum. And notice how the pose is helping you linger in those exhalations. You can really follow them out to completion if you allow yourself to. We're going to stay for 3 more breaths here, 3 more exhales. When you're ready, you're going to inhale, just kind of round your back and bring yourself up to hands and knees. We're going to do thread the needle next, which is a great way to get the kind of the chest area more open. So we're going to raise the right arm. This is the hard part because you're kind of fighting gravity. Raise the right arm as well as you can, reach up, breathe in, and on your exhale, take the right arm and thread it through the space between your left hand and knee. Your palm is up. You're trying to get your shoulder to kind of become more middle of your mat area. You can rest your head down. It's going to be the right side of your face. You might need a little blanket or something. And then step your left hand forward until the arm is straight. And you might even tent up on your fingertips, which can give your armpit a little more yawning open sensation. And every time you exhale, you're just pressing into the floor and you're turning your chest as well as you can to the left. But you have to use the parts of your body meeting the floor. You have to dig in, really root down so that you can get a little bit more turning of the torso, a little bit more openness to the chest, which if we weren't active would kind of be collapsing toward the floor. So we have to really work to get the chest into the sunlight. We'll do 3 more good full cycles of breath. And start by stepping the left hand closer to your body, and on the inhale, unthread the needle. So bring that right arm back in line with your shoulder. And we'll try the other side. So you're going to inhale, just lift the left arm, look off to the left, try to get that arm up nice and high. And then exhale, taking that length of arm and feeding it into the space between the right limbs. Get the shoulder kind of middle of your mat area, head down, palm up, slide your right hand forward. Maybe come up onto the fingertips to help bring a little more space to the chest. And every time you exhale, there's an opportunity to really push down and to turn, to bring more rotation into the thoracic spine. So really use those exhalations. Every last drop, turning, turning, turning. And just like with your previous inhales on your heart chakra pose, lengthen from tailbone out through the crown. Like there's a little rope, you're being tugged. And finishing out an exhalation. On the inhale, step your right hand back, unthread the needle. You'll bring that left hand underneath your shoulder line. And now we're going to take a version of child's pose that I think is really nice and opening for the armpit chest area. So we're going to block the hands, put 2 blocks down, and just low blocks is fine position. You don't have to go any taller than that. And so now we do want to have our child's pose back half. We want our hips near our heels. We want our feet together. Our knees are nice and wide. You're going to be taking the arms forward on top of the blocks. Your arms are extended. You're doing your best to sit back, even though there's a little more momentum here pulling you forward. Take the tailbone down. And with the hands elevated, there's that feeling again, just like heart chakra pose, where you can really work with gravity to take the shoulder blades into the body, to take the chest a little deeper. Even though this is truly a forward bend, we can tap into the area behind the sternum. We can get that part of the spine nice and open, elongated, extended. This is an area for a lot of us that's pretty collapsed. And just imagine you're lengthening from your hips all the way out through your fingernails. So create really nice length The shoulders start to dip below the line of the wrists. And go ahead and again, just like you left heart chakra pose, try to support yourself with a little bit of a rounded spine, kind of doming the back body, scooping the belly toward the back. And you're going to come back to your hands and knees table pose. So you're going to remove the blocks, just put them aside. I have to put the cat away because he's driving me crazy. And we're going to come into a sunbird sequence here. So hands and knees table, your knees are back as wide as your hips, your feet are as wide as your knees. Just a little cat-cow before we come into any leg extension. So exhale, rounding. Inhale, arching. And just kind of notice how the spine moves this morning. Is it kind of feeling jerky and sticky and limited? Are there parts of this movement pattern that are kind of hot spots that you're noticing there's more sensation? And does it change as you repeat the cat-cow? Just notice if you're getting a little more mobility or smoothness. And now just kind of pause with the neutral spine, and you're going to lift your right knee, just hover it above the floor. Take an inhale here, and on your exhale, hug the knee to the nose to the knee. Inhale, stretch the legs straight back, look forward and shoot the breastbone forward. Again, exhale, hug the knee in. Squeeze. Inhale, stretch it back, look forward, turn those inner shoulder blades toward the chest. One more time here. Exhale, squeeze it in. Inhale, extend it back. And now you're just going to hold the leg there. Use your stomach muscles to support the weight of the leg. Don't let it dangle from your lower back. So you're going to kind of invite the hip bones toward each other. Extend your left arm straight ahead. Turn the left palm open. You might stay here and just keep working with shooting your chest forward. You might reach back and grab left hand to right top of the foot and shoot the leg back. You get a little bit more of a chest opener here if you can make that connection. If not, you're just going to keep working with the extended leg, extended arm, working the chest forward. So 3 breaths wherever you are. If you did grab the foot, go ahead and extend the leg back, the arm forward. And then you're going to take the hand down, the knee down, widen the knees, sit back, just rest in child's pose, couple breaths before we do the other side. And then you're ready to come back up from the table pose. Hover the left knee. And then exhale, squeeze it in, nose to knee, knee to nose. Inhale, stretch it back. Shoot the chest forward, roll those inner upper arms out. Good, again, exhale, hug it in. Inhale, stretch it back. And once more, squeeze it in. And then grow it back and hold it there. The leg only needs to be level with the floor, not any higher. Make sure you're not doing the dog at the fire hydrant thing. Keep the outer left hip rolling down. Then extend your right arm forward, counterbalancing those horizontal limbs. Palm faces up. Maybe you're going to stay here. Maybe you're going to reach back, take hold of the left foot, shoot that leg back, kick back into your hand, and really blast open the chest. So wherever you are, 3 breaths. And if you went into the bind, some of you did, you're going to go back to extending the limbs forward and back just for a moment. And then touch down with the hand, touch down with the knee, step the knees wide, sit back for child's pose, and just a few breaths. We're going to come onto our belly for a few poses. So I usually recommend just a thin layer of blanket that starts at your hip line and moves toward the pelvis. So you don't need any blanket under your abdomen or above the hip line. And then once you're resting on that, take a moment with your legs. So we want the feet just slightly wider than hips. We want to press each foot down individually and kind of roll the inner thighs up, press the small toes down so that we end up really even on our front thighs. Broaden the buttocks. We want the buttocks to stay relaxed. And now we're going to come into Sphinx pose first, but start with your palms up. Elbows in line with shoulders. And then you're going to gently just kind of scrub your elbows toward your hips, which has a few results. It helps the chest move forward. It helps engage the pelvic tilt, I think, a little bit. And then you're going to bring attention to the inner upper arms spiraling toward the outer upper arms. The idea that the chest is grinning from armpit to armpit. And if you have any sort of pinching in your lower back, that's a sign you need to engage the pelvic tilt a little more fully. So taking the tailbone toward the floor without clamping the buttocks. So keep the buttocks spreading and soft, inner thighs lifted. Try to maintain all of this, but rotate palms down. And then arrange your head. Put your head into a position where the neckline is smooth. Close your eyes so you're not tempted to drag yourself around with your eyeballs. And then try to feel the entire length of the spine from the tailbone all the way out through the top of the head. Keep your eyes pointed toward your cheeks. Soften your jaw and descend the flesh of the temples, which is kind of an action we can take or an image we can use in backbends so that we don't have all this energy flying up. Okay, so there's effort here, but there's also areas that can be very quiet. Keep lifting inner thighs, rolling outer hips down, softening the buttocks. Good. And now gently release yourself so you can slip the hands back. We're going to prepare for a hold on Cobra pose, Bhujangasana. So you want to make sure the legs are still in good effort and good position. The hands are right next to the outer ribs. The elbows squeeze in slightly, which broadens the shoulders. The tailbone tilts toward the floor. And on an exhale, you're going to press yourself up to a sustainable place you can hold. So we're not going to move up and down today. We're going to hold. You're going to stay 5 breaths. Again, go into the neckline. Don't crease the neck. Try to soften the gaze or close the eyes. Think about the flesh of the inner upper arms rotating toward the outer upper arms. Shoot the breastbone forward. Relax where you don't need effort. Soften your jaw, descend the temples, soften the gaze, relax the buttocks. Good. Last big breath here. And exhale. Come down and rest a cheek on your crossed arms. Bend your knees and just move the legs side to side, releasing any sort of tension that lingers in the lower back. So we're about to go into locust pose, which lifts all 4 limbs. When you take the legs from the floor, you won't have the reference of touch anymore. So just keep the idea that we want to continue to lift the inner thighs up, descend the outer upper hips down, even though they'll be off the floor. And then when you raise the arms, we're hoping to get the wrists at least as high as the shoulders. So the arms tend to droop a little bit. So you might even need to look back and just see that the wrist is in line with the shoulder. So begin with your hands just kind of down on the floor, right alongside your legs, palms down. You start with the legs being in good position. You can feel them against the floor. We want to keep that. Tilt the pelvis. You have nice, long, elongated lumbar spine. And on an exhale, lift up all 4 limbs. Okay, roll the inner upper arm flesh towards the outer upper arms. Check in with those wrists, that they're as high as the shoulders. Shoot the breastbone forward. Reach out through the fingernails. Roll the inner thighs up. Roll the small toes down. Soften where you can. 3 more breaths. Okay. So this is a little bit easier version. The next version, we're going to have the palms facing up. So go ahead and rest. Cross your arms, rest your cheek. Maybe it's the other cheek this time. Bend your knees. Float the legs at whatever rhythm feels best, side to side. Okay, so with the palms face up, you're going to have to work harder to roll the inner upper arms towards the outer upper arms. So we're defying gravity a little bit more. Palms start face up next to your thighs. Start with your legs grounded, make sure they're in good position. On an exhale, lift up all 4 limbs. Look back at the wrists if you need to. Try to roll the flesh that starts at the front chest armpit area around the sides of the arms to the backs of the arms. Shoot the chest forward, reach out through your fingernails. If your butt is a hard little nugget, try to soften the buttocks, lift the inner thighs up, reach out through your toenails as well. 2 more breaths. Lengthen that front spine, yawn it open. 1 more breath, and then exhale, rest. Come down, fold up your arms, rest your cheek, bend your knees, and float the legs side to side. So we're going to come into bow pose. If you don't have the option of holding your front ankles, you're going to do modified bow pose with all 4 limbs extended. So arms forward, legs back. You won't be connecting your hands to your ankles. If you don't know, just see about it right now. So we're going to bend the knees. Reach back for the front ankles with each hand 1 at a time until you have both. And then maybe this is going to work for you. Maybe you can grab, but it doesn't feel good in your body and you're going to do modified. Maybe you can't grab and you have to do modified. So the modified is legs back, arms forward, and it's just a softer arc in the spine. And of course, we don't have that binding. So if you do have the front ankles, a few helpful tips here. Try to pull the toes toward the floor, which gives you a little bit of a better grasp on the front ankles. So instead of the toes pointing up, you're going to flex at the ankles. Also, make sure your knees are only as wide as your hips. If you can sense you have big gaps between your hip line and the floor, take the tailbone into the body. You'll feel the quads start to stretch. You'll feel more support in your lumbar spine. So for all of us, exhale, pick everything up, whatever position you're in, lift it all up. If you hold the ankles, you have that really nice advantage of being able to pull the shoulders back. So it's an assist. If you don't have it, you have to think harder about it. You have to imagine it. Okay, keep lifting inner thighs, 5 breaths. Soften your temples, soften your forehead, soften your jaw, your gaze, soften the buttocks. Good, 2 more breaths. Last big inhale, exhale, everything comes down. You can keep the knees bent, bend them if you have straight legs. Cross your arms, fold up your arms, rest your cheek, sweep the legs back and forth. Okay, we have 1 more prone back bend here. We're going to do Bakasana, just 1 leg at a time. So this is kind of the inverted position of hero pose. We're on our stomachs now, but we're going to be guiding 1 heel at a time toward the same side outer hip. The knees are together, and we're going to be propping with the free arm in kind of a sphinx pose. So we're going to take the free arm, left elbow under the shoulder. You're going to cross the left forearm in front of your chest. Your palm is down, left palm is down. Step your knees together. Okay, left leg is going to remain long where it is. We're going to bend right knee. Take hold of the right toes. And now when you do that, you're going to feel that your kind of momentum is shifting off to the left. So the work you have to do with the left arm is to help maintain more evenness across your hip line and more alignment and levelness across the shoulder line. So that arm isn't just resting there. It's kind of helping you balance your weight bearing. It's helping you square off the shoulders. So with the knees remaining together, start to guide right heel toward right outer hip, taking on the inverted shape of Virasana pose. Okay, one day, someday, it's both feet at the same time. So this is a chance to really kind of work on it without that really vigorous side of the pose. And we're going to stay 5 breaths. Keep the tailbone anchoring toward the floor. Don't let it start to poke up. So if it has a little eyeball, it's looking down at the floor. Relax your left leg, lift the left inner thigh up. Last exhale here. And now inhale, release the hold on the foot. Extend the leg. And windshield wiper your legs. You can do whatever you want with your upper body, but make sure your lower back becomes kind of cleansed of any residual tense feeling or fatigue. Do it as long as you need to. And then go back to extending your legs and stepping the knees together. We'll cross the right arm in front of the chest. So the right elbow begins in line with the shoulder. Your right palm is down and not just passively so. You're trying to anchor into index and thumb. And you're going to keep the knees close, but start to bend left knee and reach back for left foot. There is a special hold on the foot we eventually learn, but for now, just grab the foot any way you can. Go back to your arm and use the right arm to help you create evenness across the hip line. So you're not all on the right hip with weight, and to help square the shoulders. So right shoulder has to move back, left shoulder has to move forward. Take the tailbone into the floor. Start to guide left heel toward left outer hip. And we're going to stay 5 breaths. Squeezing out that little gap between your left hip flexor and the floor. Yawn it open, lengthen. Lengthen the quadriceps. Find a neckline that's not pinching off the cervical spine, so you might have to adjust the head, maybe close the eyes if that helps you. 2 more breaths. And after this exhalation, softly release the hold, extend the leg, cross the arms, and one last time, windshield wiper your legs back and forth, side to side. Okay, so the palate cleansing poses that we do kind of sprinkled into a back bending practice are the forward bends and the twists. So we're going to take child's pose right now into down dog. So just take a moment, maybe a half a minute in child's pose. So before you do that, you have to move your blanket aside that you were resting on. And then you'll sit in your child's pose. You can do whatever you like with your arms. We're using the pose right now to rest the spine. So it's not as much about extending the arms or making the pose very active. We're just trying to get that singular curve along the spine. So you might fold up the arms and use your fists as a little pedestal for your forehead. You might have bent elbows. You might have straight arms. So whatever feels best. We're going to stay another 3 or 4 breaths. Just letting the sacrum now tug away from the skull. So every time you exhale, the sacrum pulls away from the skull. And now when we come into downward dog, even though it is a forward extension, I want you to feel the heart chakra pose that we can kind of get the chest more open in the forward extension. So take the shoulder blades toward the chest, setting up for downward dog, coming into your table pose. Take the toes underneath, exhale, extend your legs. And think about the shoulder blades curling in. So the inner corners of the shoulder blades gently pushing toward the chest. That's going to help you open the chest. Your head might start to pass through the space of the arms. Even though you're anchoring into your index and thumbs, you want to roll the inner upper arm flesh out. Four more breaths. Now start to tiptoe toward your wrists. Make your way to standing mountain Tadasana. And just set yourself up in mountain pose. We're not going to be standing very long, but it's a great way to begin any standing work. It's just to connect with the earth through the feet, to feel your full spaciousness in this upright standing position, to feel your alignment, this kind of typical relationship with gravity along the spine that we're used to. Drop the shoulders. And just kind of perfecting the pose, which means finding the effortful places, mastering those, but also finding where we can be passive, conserving energy, taking repose in the pose. Okay, so open your eyes. We're going to do crescent pose. Separate the feet so they're hip distance. Make sure your toes stay in front of your heels. So the first version we're going to do three versions. The first version we're going to do, you're going to grab hold of, it looks like everybody has pants on. So you're going to grab hold of, from behind, some of your pants that's kind of either centered along your thighs right below the buttocks or closer to the inner thighs if you're able to reach that far. So grabbing your pants right below the line of the buttocks, you're going to use your pants as a prop, as a tool. As you pull on your pants, you're going to have this nice help to roll the shoulders back. So use that to help roll your shoulders back. Pull on those pants because it's helping you roll the inner thighs back. Take the tailbone into the body, lengthen the lumbar spine, even though it wants to shorten. Lift the sternum, lift your eyes. And as your head moves back, the hips move forward, the feet stay balanced, the shoulder blades coil in, the flesh of the arms is rotating from front to back. And we feel a really balanced feeling in the back bends. Inhale to come out of it. So that's the thing to watch in your back bends. We tend to sometimes exaggerate the arc of the spine without the proper support. So we really only want to do back bends to the point where we can support them. Otherwise, we end up injured. So the next version is hands to your hips. Elbows, which like to be flapping out to the sides, you're going to pin them in. So if you're looking at your screen, you don't see your arms anymore. You use your thumbs to push in on the tailbone, that little suggestion to pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt. Your thighs press from front to back. As the hips move forward, the head can come back. It's always equal and opposite relationships. Roll the inner thighs back and find a balanced feeling. Not like you're going to tip over, not like you're hyperextending lumbar. So it has to be balanced in integrity. Lengthen through the crown, soft eyeballs, descending temples, soft jaw. Oh, and your spine loves this. Feel the front spine opening. Feel that nice flush of your lumbar discs getting compressed, which they usually have more of a bulging happening. Good. Inhale, lift, 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 lift. Come upright. Release your arms. Shake your wrists if you need to. So the last version is going to be the classical arms above. So the thing about that is we are not the Egyptian whatever that move is. We want straight arms. It's a cleaner line of energy, which means your arms are probably hugging the side of your head. Your hands are pressing together. And the exit point for your line of energy of the spine exits through the crown, exits through the fingertips now. Your fingertips, which are right above the crown, okay? Okay, legs are in integrity. Remember all those prone poses. Make sure your inner thighs are rolling back, your outer hips are rolling forward. Wonderful. Inhale, straight through the fingernails. Exhale, start to arc back, but hips move forward, tailbone moves in, front thighs compress back, inner thighs roll back. Three more breaths. Doing great. Next time you breathe in, use it to lift you up and release the arms down. Good. Resting Uttanasana. Feet are still wide. Knees can be soft. Grab your elbows. Let your head hang. Let your spine have a reverse direction from gravity than it just did. Three more breaths. Feel free to swing gently if you like to, otherwise just keep holding it here. Drop the hands, bend the knees, take hold of your hips, support coming up with your stomach muscles, moving around the spine like particle board. Come all the way up, back in mountain pose. Drop the shoulders. Put the skull right above the spine. Play with the tilting of the chin until it feels neutral, which means perfect. Drop the shoulders. Go into the feet, balance the feet. Feel how the pose supports the breath. When we have all that spaciousness that we're holding in the diaphragm, the breath becomes really enhanced. Good. So you can open the eyes. We're going to do Paschima Namaskara Parsvottanasana. So we're only doing the half because this isn't forward bending week. So we're going to keep the concave lumbar, the flat back lumbar, but we're going to use the reverse prayer behind the back to help us get the chest nice and open. So you don't need props because we're not putting the hands down. We are going to find the hand position first. So for most of us, we have to modify the reverse prayer, but I always lead us into it to see how far we can get because it's always good to check in. So go ahead and take your hands together behind your back. Slide the fingertips onto the back body. Keep rotating at the wrist to get the pinkies onto the back body. And then start to work your hands up until you come nearest to the spine between the shoulder blades, the dorsal spine. If the hands can close, meaning your index and thumbs meet and the base of the thumbs meet, you can be here. But for most of us, we have to work with modified poses until this is more ready. So if you're going to modify, you're either going to clasp your hands, or some people prefer the opposite forearm grab, which can get you into a little bit deeper shoulder rotation. So find which is better for you right now. If you're doing clasping or forearm grab, you're going to note your clasp or your grab because you're going to alternate it for the second side. If you're in Paschima Namaskarasana, that's a symmetrical pose, so you don't have to worry about that. So you have your pose. We're going to separate the feet. Inhale and exhale, jumper step wide. Turning the right toes out, left toes in, and facing the right short end of the mat. Legs are straight and firm. The feet are wide enough that you can clear the hips to become square and level. If there's headlights on your hip points, they're evenly shining forward. Inhale through the top of the crown of the head. And then exhale, moving into the dorsal spine area. If you're touching it, it's easier because you have the reference of touch. If you're clasping or grabbing forearms, you have to bring your imagination to the area between your shoulder blades and really insert that area forward. Keep lengthening your nose out over your right big toe. Continue to square your hips, rolling up with the right hip, down with the outer left. Keep your legs firm and straight. And just gain a little more length with the torso. The arms, we have to resist against gravity. They want to droop here. So roll the inner upper arm flesh around to the back of the shoulders and arms. Shoot the breastbone forward. Anchor into your back heel, lift through the crown of the head, inhale, come up. Pivoting back to a nice wide stance. So if you're in opposite forearm grab, change out the crossing of the arms. If you're in the interlock, change out the interlock so you have the less favored other loose pinky position. If you're in Paschima Namaskarasana, you can stay where you are. We're going to pivot to the left now. Same thing, other side. Okay, straight legs, move the tailbone in so that your torso is upright, not pitched forward. It's okay to a little more pelvic tilt if you can. There you go. Okay, move the flesh of the arms from front to back, right around the armpit area, from the front of the arm around to the back of the arm. Okay, big inhale up to the top of the head, exhale, aligning your trunk with your left leg, your nose lengthening out over that left big toe, squaring off the hips, roll that outer right hip down, cut up with the outer left hip. Keep gaining length, breath by breath. Shoot the breastbone forward like there's a laser beam. Keep lifting the arms away from the floor. Don't let them droop. Take the elbows up if you have to. Anchor into the back heel. Use an in-breath. Come all the way up. Pivoting wide.